you were U.S. Army Special Forces. You come back. You weren't exactly the strongest link, according to you. And then you decide that you're going to go back and what? How did you went to Ranger school? How did you become an Army Ranger from being Special Forces?
Man, so in special operations, just like I'm doing right now, you just never stop training. If you ever set down the sword, it gets really hard to pick it back up. When the Spartans knew it best of all, once you lay down the shield, you can't pick it back up because your body and your mind aren't forged and conditioned in the way to be useful to your team. So I actually never set the sword down. Even when I was fighting full time, I was within special operations still as a contractor and in the Texas National Guard with 19th Special Forces Group, and I just kept going. So I went to Ranger school, and this is a very subtle distinction that is significant within special operations, but nobody else cares. But I'll explain it to you because it matters. Ranger Regiment, which is what I consider in special operations consider the Army Rangers. And Army Rangers are part of 75th Ranger Regiment. And then if you're not in Ranger Regiment, even if you went to Ranger school, so I have a Ranger tab, but I was never in Ranger Regiment, I wouldn't call myself a Ranger. I would call myself a Green Beret that went to Ranger school. Ranger school is a great leadership school that everybody should go to. If you're a cook, you should go to Ranger school because you'll be a better leader. If you are a Green Beret, you should go to Ranger school because it will make you a better leader. So whatever your job is, go to Ranger school. It's the best school for leadership. And then I came back to Special Forces and stayed a Green Beret. And I've never had a break of service. But the amount of time that I spent in uniform had fluctuated. So when I was fighting full time, when I was fighting for world titles, I was definitely focused on being a world champion. And then when ISIS started gaining their power, I cared about beating them.
So how is it that you go from doing all this stuff, Green Beret, Ranger, Special Forces, so on, deployed to Iraq, deployed to Afghanistan, and maintain a career as an MMA fighter? Like how is that even possible? And why was it necessary for you psychologically?
I think they're very complementary to each other. I think a good soldier is a good fighter, and a good fighter could make a good soldier. And that's what I really tried to translate from one to the other, is make sure that I could, my time fighting made me a better soldier, and my time as a soldier made me a better fighter. If you go to most special operations, they train in combatives or hand-to-hand often, and there's a lot of really, really good fighters within special operations. There wasn't enough time to be honest, Megan. I fought for the world title twice, and which I realize is extraordinary and is extraordinarily rare to ever even have fought for a world title. And I fought for it twice, but I also lost twice. So even though I thought, and I do think that I was a better fighter and a better athlete, there wasn't enough time for me to really be good enough to do both. Being ranked in the top 10 in the world for 10 years and fighting for world titles is definitely incredible, but it still doesn't, my title doesn't say world champion. It's like, as you read it, it was former UFC fighter or MMA fighter. It definitely would have had a ring to it had you said, world champion. But that's there wasn't enough time. And no matter how hard I tried I can't bend time to add enough time in a day.
Well, let me ask you, as somebody who knows absolutely nothing about fighting. I mean, I don't really understand the difference between MMA and UFC. I've got to be honest. Maybe you can tell me. I can't, and we see this video as you're talking about of you, in the fights, and I just can't imagine. I realize that picking up a rifle and going into the theater of war is a league of its own. But I can't imagine standing across from somebody in a ring and having him punch my face and punch my body and stand there and punch him back. Like I would love to know what that feels like and why one would keep doing it over and over.
I like to fight.
Have you always been that way? Like, were you the kid having fights in the schoolyard?
Yeah. Laura LeCarry, God bless her. I was 4 or 5 years old. I had a little crush on Laura. as I was going to North County Christian School in Atascadero, California. And she got a little bowl haircut, like the bangs, and it went around.
Been there, Laura.
But the hair, yeah, poor Laura. But the back was short. And one of the other boys on the playground pointed out that it looked like a boy's haircut and that Laura looked like a boy. So I did what any man would do, which is follow him to the top of the play gym, crack him in the mouth, and push him off, of course. And like, chivalry is not dead, even in 2021. But yeah, I've just always had that, and it has served me well sometimes, and it has been to a detriment other times. But yeah, right, I like to tussle.